Hey seniors, this is Mr. Borchard, and in this video we'll be covering different types of applications that are out there, what they require, as well as how to match your Common App to your Naviance account, which is a crucial step in your application process. So there are main types of applications that you're going to come across during this time of the year. All college applications are now online, and it is extremely rare that you find any that require a pen and paper to complete. The nice thing is that the vast majority of colleges out there have finally realized that they all want to know pretty much the same information about you, and have therefore created these applications you can fill out one time and then send to multiple schools. It has really streamlined the process as compared to when your parents applied or maybe an older sibling applied to college, so it makes things a lot easier for you. So these are the types of applications that we're going to cover in today's session. So let's start with the Cal State application. So this is what it's going to look like when you guys sign in. Now, the Cal State's a little bit different than some of the applications as that they update their application and make it live October 1st. So we're a little bit away from that right now. However, this is going to be generally what the page looks like, maybe with some different pictures or whatnot. So when we talk about the Cal State application, these are the schools that we're talking about. All right, there's a number of Cal States across the state that you can apply to all using the same application. The awesome thing about this application is that it's probably the shortest application that you'll be filling out. I think it takes you probably 45 minutes to an hour when you sit down and actually do it. There's no essays, there's nothing hard like that. The most time-consuming thing is that you have to sit down and you have to plug in all your grades from the different years, which takes time. So you pull up your transcript, have that in one screen, you have the application in the other, and you just go back and forth putting your grades in. Unlike some of the other applications, again, it does not open until October 1st. You can't even start filling it out yet. The deadline is November 30th, but as with all deadlines, should you be submitting it that day? No. You want to do it maybe a week before or something like that. Every year we hear about different applications that are crashing because so many kids are trying to do it last minute, and you don't want to fall into that category and risk your application not being submitted because you're doing it last minute. So make sure that you're leaving yourself enough time to get it turned in prior to that deadline. And that goes for any application. So I mentioned that you're putting in your own grades, and you'll see here that it says no transcripts. Why wouldn't they want transcripts? Simply, they don't want to have the extra documents to go through. You'll be filling out your grades on their application, and you need to be accurate. This is not the time to fib a little bit here or fib a little bit there. When you are accepted, you're going to have to send your final transcript. And what the schools will do at that point is they're going to look at your final transcript, look at the grades you submitted on your application, and compare them. And if there's a discrepancy there, what do you think they're going to do? They're probably going to say bye-bye to you and go on to the next kid and offer them acceptance. So don't be that person that puts in an A instead of a B or something like that. Be honest with your grades. And they don't want recommendations, right? Even if you send them, they're not going to read them. And what you risk doing is kind of making them upset if you're sending them extra paperwork. You're going to come across some schools that will tell you, we don't want letters of recommendation. And I know that from talking with some of the representatives when they come to Chaminade, that if students are sending recommendations when they specifically say not to, that goes against that student because it means that you guys aren't following directions. Okay, so for the Cal States, there's no recommendations. And then with regards to the testing. Now I know testing is something that everyone has questions about right now. And if you go to Mr. Johnson's video about testing, he's going to go into depth about all of the new information regarding COVID-19 and testing and what the schools are doing. But the bottom line for the Cal States is that they're going optional for this year. Okay, so you don't need to submit them. If you've already taken them last school year and you did well and you want to submit those, you can, but they're not going to be requiring them. Okay, the UCs. So the UCs is always a popular application for our seniors. Again, this is what it's going to look like when you log on. This is one of the applications that is open at this point. There are 9 campuses across California, and they're all very different. Some are a lot smaller, some are very big, some are very selective, and some are not so selective. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're doing your research and applying to the best UCs that you can. So their application opened August 1st. So again, you can be working on that now. And it does also close November 30th, like the Cal States do. Okay, so you can start on it now, and you can submit later on. All right, you can't even submit until November 1st. So from now until November 1st, you can take as much time as you want filling it out. And with this and other applications, there's no benefit to sending those in early. All right, so the Cal States and UCs, you have just as good of a chance if you submitted on November 1st if you did on November 28th. Okay, so just as long as you're submitting in November. Again, they don't want transcripts. No recommendations for them either. However, let's say, for instance, Berkeley at times has reached out if they're on the fence about, oh, maybe we should accept them or not. Sometimes they will reach out and say, hey, we want a recommendation from your counselor or one of your teachers. So you want to make sure that you're checking your emails to see if any of those UCs are asking for a recommendation. Again, you have probably seen this in the news. They're going test optional as well. So this is something that you do not need to submit unless you want to. And that includes your subject tests and your SAT or ACT. The difference between Cal State's and UC's application, the big part is that essay, the essays that you have to write. So for the UCs, they have 8 different prompts that you can choose from, and you're choosing 4 of them. Right? So what we'd always suggest you do is you can quickly Google UC prompts, and it'll pop up, and go through and see if there's any 4 of them that really stick out. Right? A big piece of advice when you're writing these essays, write about different things. Don't write about the same thing 4 different times. That doesn't tell them anything new or different about you. Coalition application. So this is one of the newest applications that is out. Okay, you can apply to about 50 different colleges right now with the coalition. The big thing that you guys need to be aware of is at the bottom you'll see the 3 colleges that are popular for Chaminade students to apply to that only take the coalition. A lot of the schools will take the coalition or the Common App, and if that is the case, we would suggest you do the Common App because it's a little bit more streamlined, less glitchy, things like that. But if you're applying to Florida, Maryland, or University of Washington, you will have to do the coalition. So a little bit about the coalition. You also have to write an essay on this one, and there's 5 prompts that you choose from. Some of the schools may require transcripts, some of them may not. Okay, so it's going to give you an option to upload it into the coalition, and then whether or not you're going to send it to these schools. But the coalition is going to be very similar to the Common App with a few other parts that you're going to have to fill out. But again, if you have a choice, we would suggest that you're using the Common App instead of the coalition for applications. So, and then there are a lot of schools out there that have very school-specific applications. Some of them are extremely short. Some of them, like Georgetown, are going to be quite extensive. Okay, so one piece of information I want to give you is, for instance, the ASU and University of Arizona schools do have both a Common App, or you can fill it out at their school. Our suggestion would be actually fill it out through the school. And the reason for that is their applications that are school specific are a lot shorter than the Common App. You don't have to write any essays or anything like that. So if you're applying to Arizona State University or U of A, we suggest you go to their website and fill that application out directly through them. All of these applications are going to be a little bit different, but because they're bigger state schools or whatnot, it's a little bit more streamlined. Okay, so these are the school-specific ones. If you're not sure if they're Common App or whatnot, if they don't show up on Common App, then I would suggest you just go to the school's website, just type in apply Kansas University, and it'll take you exactly to where you need to go to apply. All right, so let's talk about the Common App. Probably the most popular application out there right now. The first thing I want to point out to you is that they do have an app on your phone that allows you to keep track of when your deadlines are and spits out information to you that's going to be important for you to know during this time. So if you are applying to any schools on the Common App, I'd really suggest that you download this app and have it on your phone. So the Common App has over 900 schools that are a part of it. Okay, for the Common App, you have to send your transcripts, and you have to have a counselor and teacher recommendations. For both of those, we have separate videos on how to send your transcripts as well as the teacher and counselor recommendations, because those processes can be a little bit confusing. Some of the colleges or majors may still require test scores. However, that's getting smaller and smaller at this time with COVID. And you must send their scores if it is for a particular major or whatnot. Some of them may have specific scholarships that are available, but you have to send test scores too. So you always want to make sure you're checking the school's website to get the most updated information, and that can change from time to time. And then also the other part of the Common App is they have supplemental sections for some of the schools. So although you write a general essay on the Common App that's about 650 words, some of the schools will require you to write a few more. All right? They may ask you, what's your favorite book? Or why are you choosing our school? Or something like that. Keep in mind, this can vary from school to school. So LMUs might take you, maybe an hour to do, but if you're applying to Stanford, that could take you a couple days to do because they ask a few more questions. So you always want to make sure that you're checking the supplemental section when you're filling out these applications. All right, so you've decided that you want to apply to the Common App, and now you have to figure out a way to match your Common App to Naviance. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through this process. And the importance of being able to match these is that if you don't match your Common App to Naviance, then we're not able to send your transcripts, letters of rec, or any documents that are required from us to those schools. So it's really important that you do this step. Now I say step because there's a lot of different things that you need to do. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is when you're filling out the Common App, you need to fill out 2 sections entirely before you can start linking these two together. The first one is that profile. So you can see the first blue arrow points to the profile. That's just all information about you. The education portion is all about where you're going to high school and different information regarding your educational background. Okay, once you fill out those 2 sections, and that can take you a little bit of time, you're going to be able to move on to the next. But I also want to point out this one thing here on the right-hand side, where it says instructions and help. Every page that you go to in the Common App will have help guidelines here. Sometimes they're videos or whatnot. And these are great for any questions that you may have, like, oh, what does this mean or what does that mean? You can always watch these videos, and they're going to give you some information as to how to best fill this out. And as always, you can always email your counselor with any questions you have. Take a screenshot of what you don't understand. Send it to us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So once you fill out those 2 sections, you're going to want to fill out the FERPA and release. Okay, so as you can see, we're under the My Colleges tab, and then you have to have a college in there. So we have LMU in there for right now. So we go here, and this is also the place that you're going to be able to put in recommenders. Okay, if you have a non-Chaminade recommender, this is where you're going to assign them. And that means maybe someone from your church, an outside coach, something along those lines. If you want someone from Chaminade to write a recommendation for you, you are not going to be putting them in here. You're actually be going through Naviance. And there's going to be a video that shows you how to do that as well. So again, this is where you're going to put in the recommenders if they're not from Chaminade. If they are from Chaminade, you're going to be using Naviance. All right, so once you're in here, you're going to click on the FERPA, and you're going to be asked to read about the FERPA. Okay, you're going to be asked to say, yes, I understand, I know what FERPA is, I agree with it, all of that. Okay, let me give you a gist of what the FERPA is, because this is a section that oftentimes can confuse people. So basically what this is asking you is if you are going to waive your right or not waive your right to read your letters of recommendation, because ultimately you do have the right to do that. Now let me give you a little bit more information about that. If you apply to a school, you get accepted, you decide to attend that school, and then you decide, hey, I want to see that letter of recommendation, you can then go to their admissions department, ask to see it, and if they still by chance have it, then you can read it. That's the process it takes to read those recommendations. Okay, so it's not something like, hey, I get to approve it before it gets sent. It's not like that. So, why would they ask you to do this? And why do colleges care about this? So what you have to think about is colleges always want to get the most genuine information about you from your recommenders, right? And if we get to see if you have waived this right or not. And what the colleges are afraid of is if you do not waive your right and you want to see these recommendations, that maybe people aren't going to be as honest as they typically would. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're waiving your right to see all these recommendations or what, because then it gives confidence in what is being written about you. The colleges will realize, hey, this is very genuine. There's nothing that they have to be worried about. This is a good thing. All right. And what I like to point out is we did have a student quite a few years ago, that very high achieving student that was applying to very selective schools and actually was getting accepted. However, they all pulled out when they realized that they did not waive their right to see these recommendations. And that makes schools very nervous. And that person actually ended up getting denied from these very selective schools because they simply checked the wrong thing. Now, I don't know if the student did or their parents did, but that's something to keep in mind. You want to make sure you're the one going in and selecting I waive my right. Okay? Now, there's a difference with the FERPA this year than in past years. In the past, once you select I waive my right to review all recommendations and supporting documents and you saved it, you could not go back and change it at all ever again. And that was very scary to a lot of people. So what they changed it to is you can go in and change this up until you submit your first application through the Common App. Once you submit that first application, then your selection in here is set in stone and there's no way to change it. You can't call them and change it or anything like that. It's set in stone. All right, so I'm going to make sure you see which one you want to do. That one I circled is the one you want to do. I waive my right to review all recommendations and supporting documents. Okay, that's the one you want to select. Once you do that, you hit the box below and you save it. And then you're done with the FERPA. Okay? Now, on to step 3 on linking them. So once you've completed those 2 sections on your Common App, you've completed the FERPA agreement, then you're going to switch over to Naviance, and this is where you're going to go in and finally match your accounts. This is what your Naviance looks like when you first sign in. You're going to go to the colleges I'm applying to. And when you go in there, you're going to see a big red bar at the top. And you're going to see where it says Match Accounts. So you click on that. And it takes you to this page. And it's going to ask you for 2 things. First, you put in your Common App email address. Now, this is the email address that you use to create your Common App. If you used your Chaminade email to create it, then you're putting that in. If you used a Gmail one to create all of your applications and your Common App, then put in your Gmail one. Then the next one is asking for your date of birth. This is your date of birth, not the date that you're filling this out. Every year we have students that aren't paying attention and they're just putting in the date that they're filling this out. It is your date of birth. Once you put in these 2, then it'll match the accounts and you'll get a green line across the top and you are good to go. All right? So, I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but there you go. Hopefully you understand your applications better. You know how to link those 2. And as always, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or email us screenshots or parts of the application you get stuck on, and we're happy to help you out. All right, seniors, good luck.